Although space exploration has widened our vision of the universe through technological advancements, we still have not found a way to peaceably settle differences between nations and nationalities. On July 31st, 1990, 100,000 Iraqi troops massed for an attack on their oil-rich neighbor, Kuwait. And on August 1st, Iraqi forces annexed Kuwaiti oil fields. The international community condemns Iraq's actions, but the nation's leader, Saddam Hussein, is unrepentant. The American president, George Bush, quickly galvanizes the support of world leaders, including those from the Arab states of Egypt and Syria. Together, they're to shield the rest of the Gulf region and its valuable oil from further aggression. The operation is known as Desert Shield. After Hussein passes the February deadline for withdrawal from Kuwait, Allied forces from 24 nations move in. Operation Desert Shield turns to Operation Desert Storm. After heavy airstrikes and roughly 4 days of ground fighting, Iraq is pushed out of Kuwait. As Operation Desert Storm continues, the world watches events unfolding on live television. The sorties of bombers taking off, cruise missiles launching from ships at sea, and bombs exploding over Baghdad as Allied planes streak past Iraqi anti-aircraft fire. As the world watches, people become aware that this is a new kind of warfare. Stealth fighters and bombers cruise over Iraq, dropping smart bombs with near impunity. Due to a radar-absorbing surface, a low profile, and an elaborate system of heat suppression, these expensive aircraft are nearly invisible to enemy radar and infrared detection. Operating with such stealth, these aircraft deliver weapons to their targets with stunning efficiency. And the bombs themselves are technological marvels. Using video eyes, the bombs see telltale laser beams marking their targets and zero in. The targets can be painted by ground troops or by the pilots themselves. Films released by the Allied command show precision hits on bridges, bunkers, and small military targets that would have been impossible to destroy so accurately in the past. This method of bombing is so efficient that within 48 hours of the start of bombing, Baghdad is cut off from television, radio, electricity, telephone, water, and sewage services. While the Allied forces enjoy the benefits of this futuristic new technology, the enemy is virtually reduced to a 19th century mode of operations. When older Soviet-model Scud missiles are launched from Iraq toward Israel, another piece of modern machinery is unveiled, the Patriot missile. Locking onto their targets with sophisticated tracking systems, the Patriots intercept and destroy the Scuds in midair. On the ground, equipment like the M1A2 battle tank illustrate the advances in the technology of warfare. Weighing 15 tons, the tank can reach speeds of 40 miles per hour and can run on diesel, gasoline, and kerosene. It has an inertial satellite navigation system, all-weather night vision, laser rangefinders, and state-of-the-art weaponry. When fired on by the Iraqi tanks, the M1A2 actually calculates the enemy tank's position from the trajectory of the incoming shot. With a heavier gun than the Iraqi tanks, it simply stays out of the enemy's range and fires back from a safe distance. Apache helicopters support tanks and ground troops not only with their firepower, but with rotor-mounted surveillance and targeting systems. AWACS planes flying at high altitude also gather radar and surveillance information and feed it to pilots and troops on the ground. All of this information, gathered by individual craft in the field, is sent to command and control centers orchestrating large-scale attacks with a wide array of military hardware. Technology makes Desert Storm a new kind of war. Some of this new equipment is so revolutionary that military personnel compare the experience of bombing targets to playing a video game. For all of its success, this quality of detachment from the enemy and the devastation wrought by warfare is a disturbing aspect of this modern technology. The loss of the human face of war is perhaps the most striking quality of Desert Storm. Although real lives are lost, the conflict is viewed from afar through the lens of electronic media, even for those involved in the fighting. Pilots in aircraft flying thousands of feet overhead drop precision bombs that destroy images on cockpit monitors without ever seeing an Iraqi face. Selected images from these cockpit monitors are released to news agencies, who in turn broadcast them to millions of television sets around the world. There are other images of anti-aircraft fire and jets taking off, but they're largely meaningless. The public sees the toll of the war through the eyes of the cockpit monitor and gives its approval. This new brand of fighting is dubbed the Clean War. Critics argue that the real technological feat of the war is the military's control of such visual information. Analyzing footage from Patriot missiles and laser-guided bombs, some groups report that the so-called smart bombs are not so smart after all. Many apparently missed their targets, and in the worst cases landed in civilian areas. Looking back, some skeptics suggest that George Bush's popularity was dropping rapidly in the polls, and faced with an upcoming election, he exploited the situation with Iraq to boost his own popularity. The war certainly has that effect. After the $60 billion war is over, 148 Allied soldiers have died, along with over 200,000 Iraqi troops. President Bush enjoys an approval rating of over 90%, a record for the Gallup poll.